Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positivity here on the show, and with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He has worked for several different promotions: WWE, WCW, ECW, TNA, former NWA World Tag Team Champion, currently with TNA Impact Wrestling. The one, the only, Johnny Swinger is with us. Welcome, Johnny, to Wrestling with Heart.
Man, thank you for having me. My pleasure to be here.
Yes. So tell me about your childhood and upbringing. Where are you from?
Well, it's quite a long time ago. But if I can remember, I was born and raised outside of Buffalo, New York, right next to Canada there. So we get a lot of snow. And I was there till I was about 21 years old until I moved south I moved to Atlanta when I was 21 to join WCW, and that's how my big league career got started, so to speak.
Yeah, Buffalo it's freezing up there, really cold.
Most of the year, yeah, right. That's why I got out of there.
Yeah, I don't blame you for moving south where it's just warm. I mean, it's hot.
It does. Well, I'm in Atlanta right now, and it's cooled down today. It's only about 90, but we had the last few days were poking around 100, and that's just, to me, that's uncivilized. Can't.
It's brutal. Absolutely.
Yeah, I
brutal.
can't handle it.
No. All right. So wrestling, I'd imagine, was such a big part of your childhood. What was it about professional wrestling that just made you go, man, this is what I want to do for a living?
Man, it's hard to say. I came across it on TV when I was really young, like a lot of people do, and it's when I saw it in person for the first time, where I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. I knew that's what I wanted to do. You just know, and I started hitting the weights when I was 11, 12 years old, and it was always in my mind. That's why I saw myself doing it. I didn't see myself doing anything else. And I just stuck with that goal. And once I graduated high school, a week after that, I was in a training camp up in Toronto, Canada, which, being from Buffalo, it sounds like, wow, you're in another country. But people that know, it's right on the border. So it's a good 90-minute drive back and forth. And I did that 2 to 3 days a week for about 8 or 9 months was the training. I always say our training was very similar to the Stu Hart dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it really, you know what I mean? Really hard, intense training. And you were either going to make it as a pro or you were going to quit. So a few of us didn't quit, made it the whole way. And most of us all had careers in the business.
Yeah, it seems like becoming a professional wrestler, really, it's hard, just like anything, it takes a lot of hard work, but it also requires a lot of discipline. I'd imagine the training process, especially, working in Canada, in another part of the world. I mean, it was tough, just as tough as it is in the United States.
Sure. And like I said, being from Buffalo, we just discussed the weather. Now you're talking Northwest Canada, where I trained out of Toronto, but I really broke in a city called Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is up there. Mm-hmm. And we would go up to these Indian reservations where you would drive over frozen lakes to get to these places. If you've ever heard of a minus 70-degree wind chill, I mean, that's life or death.
Yeah.
And that's where I really started. Chris Jericho wrote it about it in his book, Edge and Christian. We all started together. We all experienced those northern tours, as they were called. And even before us, Roddy Piper, that's the way he broke in. Scott Norton, a lot of guys started. A lot of Vern Gagne sent a lot of people up to these tours. And like I said, after a couple of those, you were either going to make it or you were going to give up and never come back.
Yeah, I mean, Canada is such an incredible wrestling, not only wrestling country, but territory. I mean, so many greats came from there. Like you said, Jericho, Edge, Bret Hart. I mean,
Lance
the list
Storm.
goes on. Lance Storm.
Yeah, we all started. Jericho and Lance, they started a couple years before we did, so they were like the veterans on the tour, and they had just started wrestling in Japan, and they were going to be big stars in the profession, and we just idolized those guys and followed their lead, and then ended up being with them even to this day at TNA. Lance Storm's one of the road agents there, so we're all still kind of working together. It's pretty cool.
Full circle moment. What was it about Lance and about Jericho that really made you go, man, I want to be like these guys?
Well, they weren't giant guys, and coming off the '80s, we had people like not Hogan, Andre the Giant, John Studd, all the King Kong Bundy, one man gang, all these monstrous guys. And a guy my size is, Edge had the height, but he was very thin back then. And we saw how well Chris and Lance, how hard they worked, and they started getting booked in Japan. And they were our size kind of guys, and they just really focused on developing their skills and talents. And it gave us all the hope that with hard work it would win through, and it did.
It's all about the drive and the hunger and the desire to be the best that you can be. So you train, like we've talked about here. This is no joke. You either have it or you don't. For you, what was your experience like personally training?
It was pretty tough because I wasn't a big athlete. When I was, like I said, I knew I wanted to be a pro wrestler when I was 9 or 10 years old. So I shied away from team sports. I did play some like basketball and baseball just because that's what the other kids were doing. But I knew I just seen these guys on TV, like, man, look at the size of these guys, Magnificent Morocco and Dino Bravo and these guys. So I thought my whole thing was that I had to eat and lift weights as much as I could so I could get over 200 pounds and be like one of these guys. And then when the actual training started, it was like I couldn't compare it to anything because I didn't play serious football or anything like that. But then once I got into wrestling, I did speak to guys that played professional football like Goldberg and Steve Mongo McMichael, who's going into the Football Hall of Fame this year. And when those guys would tell you, this is no game, this is not ballet, this is a hard, tough sport, physically on your body and mentally too. So you take just as much of a beating as any pro athlete, and depending on how much you do it, which for a lot of periods of time we were doing it full time, which even football, you play a game and you're off for a week. Sometimes wrestling, you're wrestling every day, sometimes twice a day. So it can really take a toll on you.
Yeah, I mean, those bumps hurt on that mat. It is just.
And you never know what kind of ring you're going to be in. You're in a different ring in a different place, and there's always a board sticking up, or they didn't put it up right. And a lot of guys have gotten injured just from bad equipment, like the ring being set up wrong, or a board gets busted in the middle of the match. Just so much could go wrong. When you're out there and it's live, man. You either got a live crowd, or you got a live camera on you. So there's no, oops, stop, we got to take two. Man, you just got to go. And that's what we did. And the guys that today do this, it just continues on. It's the same process.
Now, you made your debut in '93. Tell me about your first few matches. What can you tell me about the early part of your career?
Well, they were out there in Winnipeg, Canada, a guy by the name of Tony Condello, who still runs the tours to this day for young up and comers. I went out for, I think, a 2-day tour was my actual first matches, and it was everything I expected it to be. And I was like, man, this is for me. I want to do this every day of my life. And we kept getting booked out there. And then before you know it, we were booked in around Michigan, Ontario, and we were somewhere every weekend. And I did that for probably 2 years until I caught the eyes of someone that was involved with WCW. And I got the call to start going there to do television when I was barely 20 years old at that
20
point.
years old. I mean, that's very young to be wrestling on big time television. Huge.
Right. And wrestling with guys that I just got finished watching on TV as a kid, the first time I walked in the dressing room for WCW is in Macon, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. And the first thing I see when I walk in is Earthquake sitting in the corner. Diamond Dallas Page is in there. Dirty Dick Slater. Macho Man walking down the hall. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just was watching these guys on TV seemed like yesterday. Now I'm in the dressing room with them. And now I'm really wondering which one of them I got to have to wrestle, and are they going to kill me out there? It's quite the
The nerves start kicking in.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't want to make these guys mad because even at that point, I was smart enough to know, you know what, they can do whatever they want to you out there. What are you gonna? You can't stop them.
No, you've got to basically catch up to them so that you
Right.
can be successful, so that the both of you know what you're doing out there.
Exactly. I was lucky that first night at TV. I got Johnny B. Bad. People know as Mark Marrow, and man, he was awesome and great to work with, and was very understanding and patient with someone with very little experience. Um, you could get out there with the Road Warriors or something. They just throw you over the top to the floor or something. You never be seen again. But I got some really good opponents there early on at WCW, and I was able to show a good amount of talent for being as young as I was, and they took a liking to me right away.
Yeah, and you also worked in ECW as well. What was that experience like?
That was a completely wow different. I mean, not to go back, but that WCW they signed me in '97, so I was there for 3 years as a full time talent, and to go from WCW to ECW is like two completely different products, as they say. We used to watch it, me and Disco Inferno and Chris Canyon, and we used to watch ECW when it was on at like midnights back when we were in WCW, and we just couldn't believe the things these guys were doing, and we used to laugh and go, "Man, we'll never wrestle there." And then lo and behold, I end up going there. But man, wrestling is wrestling, and the people, the fans in Philadelphia there, they call them the smart fans back then. They knew who was good and who wasn't. So they'd let you know, man. They're the hardest people in the country to get in front of and try to entertain. But it was a great experience. I met Simon Diamond. We ended up in a tag team there and getting featured pretty well, and formed a friendship there that stands to this day. So it was a lot of fun working there, and I made a lot of new friends like Tommy Dreamer and Raven. And I knew Raven from WCW. He was one of the people that facilitated me going from WCW to ECW. And Sandman, Balls Mahoney, they're all great people. Everybody worked together to make a good show.
And it was this so cool thing about ACW, it was like counterculture, whereas
Right.
WWE and WCW were like that, that pop or mainstream pop. ECW was alternative,
It
and you
was a
could.
legit alternative, and nothing against what's on today, but it's kind of the same, if you watch our show and AEW and WWE, it's the wrestling's kind of the same. It's, man, that ECW had some strange characters that you never seen before, doing things you never seen before. So that's why it stuck out. Really, it developed a cult following there, and a lot of people became major stars there, like the Dudleys and Taz, and they all went on to have big WWE careers.
And you were there until like the closing, weren't you?
Yeah, yep, I was there, and I was only there a year, but man, it was a good year. You know what I mean? It was I was on every TV show and pay per view that they had, so I was really in the mix, real good there. So it was really hard to see that go down. I could have used another year there, I think, and even talking to Dreamer afterward, who was involved with administration at the time, that there were plans for me and Kid Cash and a few other people to really rise up the ranks there. So I could have used a little more time there. I think that would have been, of course, WCW went down at the same time, so that was a really big blow to myself and a lot of other people that were really trying to gain footing um, as a name drawer. Being able to draw as a name.
When you have only one company left, I mean, it's got to be hard. The cool thing about wrestling now is that you have so many options, so many alternatives now.
Right.
You have WWE, you have AEW, you have Impact, or TNA, I guess I should say. But it's like you have places now for guys to work. It's not just only one company or even just two companies. You've got multiple places to work. I mean, that's a really good feeling, I feel, for the wrestling community.
Sure. And like you said, there was a good year plus period there from 2001 into the middle of 2002 where there was just one, that WWE, and then TNA came up, thank God, in mid 2002 and gave an alternate place for because there was so much talent out there with nowhere to go. I was one of them. Luckily, I kept busy in that period of time. I had enough of a name that I would get booked on independents and some overseas tours and stuff like that. But when the Jarrett started that TNA, that really kind of rejuvenated a lot of careers that for guys like myself, I was only my mid to late 20s at that point. So I still felt like I had a lot more time to establish myself in the sport. And it was TNA was a great blessing for a lot of people, and it's still holding true to this day. So it's the only place I've actually gone back to, had opportunity to go back to. So it's a great opportunity for a lot of guys to get known, apply their trade, and either stay there if they want or move on to somewhere else at some point.
Yeah, I mean, TNA just gained such a huge following. Like, there's been it's almost like a resurgence in recent years of the brand, the TNA
Right.
brand, and to see what it's doing now, it's amazing that people are checking out the current product and everything like that. And you're having, WWE and all these other companies work together with TNA. It's a surreal feeling, really.
Right, and it's all online, so there's a lot of opportunities. A lot of people come to me and say, "Well, I don't get that channel." I'm like, "You can go on YouTube and watch it." I mean, there's so many other avenues to see the exposure that guys are getting now. So it's just it's a great time to be a wrestler, and I'm glad to still be in it and still be able to get in there and mix it up with younger guys. And I still yesterday I talked to Robert Gibson from the Rock and Roll Express, so I still go in there and wrestle guys that I watched when I was a kid. So it's pretty cool to still be with the Rock and Roll Express and Tommy Rich and all these guys I idolized as a kid, and they're still at it. They're still doing it. So you don't retire. You just stop taking calls, or they stop calling you, which is usually it's a physical thing that really you just can't get in there and do it anymore. Otherwise, you can really stay in it as long as you want to if you're willing to keep making the drives and keep your body in shape. And like I said, it's been a goal of mine since day one. So it's the only thing I know. I've always trained, always kept myself in shape, never got out of get overweight or anything like that. I mean, people are paying to see us, so we need to, we got to look our best.
Yes. Well, let's switch gears now and talk about the stuff you've done outside of wrestling. Let's talk about the charity work that you've done throughout the years. What have been some of the organizations or events that you've done to raise awareness about certain causes?
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. Most recently, I've been involved with Children's Hospital out of Chattanooga in Tennessee. It's called Wrestling for a Cause. They actually run not-for-profit wrestling cards, and I've been doing some work with them for, gosh, probably about 3 or 4 years now. I've done every event they have. We just had a big one in May 18th at the Chattanooga Convention Center. Mick Foley was involved, and man, he helped us out tremendously. Really got a lot of eyes on that, and that's one of the great things I've been able to do, and on a continuing basis. And that most of my time is I'm involved with like the local schools in my area. Both my kids are in a school district, so I do a lot of work in the schools. Rick Steiner is a good friend of mine. He's on the school board here in Cherokee County where we live. So that's pretty cool to be involved with that, and it's all good, man. We're just having fun and helping out wherever we can.
I think that's really cool. A fellow wrestler is on a school board. Who would have
And he
thunk it,
has been
right?
and it's not a fluke. He's been reelected at least 2 or 3 times. He's been on it for probably 10 years now. So he's very popular in the community. Like I said, we're great friends. I'm good friends with his brother Scott, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got three. Rick's got 3 sons.
Mm-hmm.
One of them everyone knows is
Braun
Braun
Breaker.
Breaker. He also has 2 other sons that were big high school and college wrestlers. That I don't know why they didn't go pro. They just didn't choose to. But man, they're great family. They're all great people. All good friends of mine, and we all stay in touch and help each other out when we can.
What do you think of the work Braun's doing
You
currently?
know, I've heard nothing but good stuff, and I don't sit there and actually watch the shows. But like I tell a lot of young guys, like I'm on mostly these independent shows now, they'll come back and go, "Hey, Swinger, what'd you think of my match?" And I learned this from an old timer. I'll say it sounded good. Like I can hear the people the way they're reacting, so that means it was good. I can't sit here and pick apart every move you did. Anyone can do that. Same thing with Steiner's kid. I hear nothing but
Hmm.
good stuff, so
Yeah.
that's how I know he's. I don't have to sit there and watch him. I just know I can
Yeah.
hear it.
Hmm.
And then his brother tells me when his one brother Maverick came over to do some work on my roof. Man, just see how good Bronson's doing. I was like, man, I hear it, so I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Now, when you're going to schools, is there like a particular event or a few events that you've done that you enjoyed doing the most?
Not really. Nope. Just like my kids growing up in the district. They got Dad's Day, they got Career Day. There's always something going on. So I'm in there and just having a good time and kind of living a double life from the wrestling character, just being a regular, civilian. It's kind of cool to go to the events and my kids are getting older now. When they played sports in the last couple of years, I got to go to the games and Scott Steiner was actually a coach. He was a middle school football coach at the high school. So it was kind of cool to go to those games and see him there. And, same thing. His sons all our kids went through the same schools. So it was pretty neat to,
Yeah.
and my son's finishing up. My daughter's at University of Georgia now. So
Congratulations.
it's moving along fast.
Yeah. What is it about helping out in the community that gives you the most joy?
I don't know. I just feel like you should do it. You know what I mean? Just, you got to do what you can and try to keep things, especially for the kids. You know what I mean? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. You see it in the news and all that. And I know it happens here. It happens everywhere, but just try to look out for the kids. And, like Rick Steiner told me, he's like, man, we got to keep a safe environment. And, they're always updating the security measures in these schools because you got all these people going. It's ridiculous, so they just got to try to keep everything safe for everybody. And, people have them want to send their kids because a lot of people are afraid to send their kids to school now. It's just horrible.
It's scary.
You never know what's going to happen. So it's like, we just got a new superintendent here. So it's just, they really work hard on trying to make it a good system there and attract people back that have taken their kids out or moved to other areas.
Yeah, I mean, education is very important. I think that the education system is vital to society. So I absolutely feel there needs to be more in place to help students, be safe and teachers
Sure.
be safe.
Absolutely.
Well, Johnny, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you. It means a lot to me and to my listeners. I want to say thank you for coming onto the show.
Oh, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Where can people find more about you on social media? Do you have any websites or Facebook or Instagram?
I'm on all that. I'm on Facebook as Johnny Swinger. I'm on Twitter at Swinger_Johnny. Instagram, Johnny_Swinger. So I'm pretty easy to find. I'm available for podcast interviews, seminars, as well as matches and signings. And I do all of the above and enjoy the heck out of it. So, if there's anybody out there, man, feel free to contact me. My info is out there on all those platforms I just stated. And I'd be glad to come out and help out in any way I can.
Awesome. Thanks again, Johnny. And you're more than welcome to come back.
Man, thank you, dude. I hope I get to come on again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks
all
again.
Right.
Talk to you soon.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.